Much of the content that you watch on Tennis Channel is in large part due to the artistic genius of our guest today. He is Matthew Bowman. He is a producer for TC, and this is going to be an opportunity to orbit around Matthew's world and what he's done in the business, how so much of it is currently in tennis, but he's also done work in the NFL with the NFL Network and Fox. And so this will be a fun opportunity to spotlight him. I'm Bryan Fenley. I'm an anchor at Fox Sports Radio and a broadcaster for the USTA. And this is the On to Something podcast. And Matthew Bowman, I know you've got three different ways that you go by. I'm going to go with Matthew, but we talked about this before. So
that's the safest bet.
The safest one we go. So recently I had one of your coworkers on in Gabe Haggard. Awesome guy.
Got to watch that podcast too. Really good content.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So if I were to talk to Gabe right now and say, you know what, Gabe, what do you think about this Matthew guy? What is he going to say?
He'd first say like me and he would call me Bowman. So he would go by the last name. And he'd be like, first off, we have some great Laker chats usually catching up on our team. But then also, I mean, I think he would say that pretty cool guy. I get along with Gabe really well. He's our PDM manager, and we rely on him a lot. And so like I always have to stay in line knowing that, I need him more than he needs me at the end of the day. So never had any conflicts, anything like that. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he certainly is. And I encourage everybody to check out that conversation I had with him. And Matthew, so when you look at your career, and I saw that you had an opportunity to internship at KTLA, but what do you think about hustling and how important that is in this business?
You know what?
For you, what does hustling mean for you and what you've done so far?
So hustling for me, the best way I had to explain it to me was I go back to my freshman year at Cal Lutheran University, where I went to school. And I remember taking intro to comm. And a lot of people, they I'll say frown upon, but when they think of communication majors, they think of it being fairly easy and different things like that. And it's like not the most challenging. So for me, I remember my intro comm class was actually one of the hardest classes I took. And my professor, who was actually my advisor, she purposely made it one of her harder courses because she wanted to weed out the people that really weren't about the industry or wanted to be in the business. So that's where I kind of like grew my work ethic or knew about the hustle in the industry. I mean, I've always been a hustler from a young age. I was a park kid. So I grew up in a park playing sports. And when I was in high school, I got the opportunity where the main park where I grew up at and spent most of my childhood, they ended up bringing me on as a 16-year-old to work there. And so like, my favorite story to tell people, especially like how we got minimum wage and stuff going on, I've never worked for less than like $13 an hour. And I feel like that's pretty impressive, especially starting off from the age of 15, 16. And that was hustling. I was chalking baseball fields, umpiring games, being there from 8 to like 5 o'clock as a 15, 16-year-old, when most people my age were out hanging at the beach or hanging with friends and stuff like that. I was like, you know what? I want to make some money, put some money in my pocket. So, I mean, so that led the work ethic for hustling. So like when I had heard that in the comm class about how she was gonna make it harder, to me, it was just like, all right, I'm used to this. And so I always knew it was going to be a hard road. I mean, everybody wants to work in sports if they love sports at the end of the day. Like it would be a dream job for anybody. So I knew that, there's going to be 100 people at the start line, but at the finish line, there might only be 4 or 5. And it's all about who has the shoes and who's prepared to do that path. So hustling for me was a lot. I mean, like you saw, I started off at KTLA. And it's funny, that actually started off as a summer internship originally between my junior and summer year. And it actually got extended to me doing through my whole senior year too. So this is another level of hustling where now I'm living in Thousand Oaks. I got to drive to Hollywood twice a week in my 1975 VW convertible, driving on the 101. And at the same time, I mean, I had a full workload. I was taking 16 to 18 units. I actually had 3 jobs too. I was working at the gym on my campus. I was also working with our TV department, like broadcasting games and stuff like that. And I also had a job at GNC selling nutrition and vitamins and stuff like that. So like I was doing it all. So like hustling is nothing new. So that went from that to where, and it's funny, when I started at KTLA, I wanted to be on-air talent. Like that's my original goal for this industry was. And when my mentors, I had got to that point because when my mentors, I kind of still wasn't sure. I was still around, like I played baseball, which is why I went to Calu. And I was like, I know I'm not gonna be a professional athlete, especially in baseball. I mean, I don't want to be minor leagues making 10 grand a year, hustling even harder. So I knew, what can I do to drive my interest? And a great exercise, one of my mentors had me, he was like, take the one thing you love, which was for me was sports. And he said, take the one thing that you did as a kid that you used to love to do, whether you got in trouble or not, you just did a lot, which for me was always talking. I love to share stories, talk with friends. So I was like, hey, why don't I get paid to talk about sports? I can put the two together. So wanting to be on air talent at first, which got me to KCLA. So that was going to every live event that I can and I wanted to, which was a luxury. Like I was there Christmas Day of LeBron Dwayne Wade throwing the lob to LeBron to dunk or different stuff like that. I was courtside for that, like amazing experiences. But being around a team, my mentor there, Darren, he actually used to be an anchor at NFL Network, which I really didn't even know at the time. He was a big help for me to the industry to get my feet wet, and would have talks with me and tell me about that and kind of put me on to the producer side of it, of being behind the story to help share it instead of necessarily being the main focal person telling the story. So hustling for that went from there. And then once I graduated, that led me, and sometimes God just has a path for you or stuff just works out. And I tell people all the time, like, I applied for like 3 jobs when it came to the end of my senior year. I wasn't on it per se, where it was like most people are like, all right, I gotta get hired right now. I was like, I'll come. Like, if anything, eventually will fall in line. So I mean, I applied for 3 jobs, and one of them happened to be with the NFL Network, and went down there. And I'll tell you this right now, I love football. I'll tell you right now, I absolutely love football. I know almost everything about it. My interview with them was one of the hardest things I've probably done to this day. So, and they'll tell you this, you get there, and before you even meet with somebody, talk with someone, there's a 100-question quiz you have to take. 25 multiple choice, 25 fill in the blank, 25 essays, and then 25 like mix and match. And you got to know teams, play styles, terms, like everything. So that was like a whoa, okay. So able to get a job from that, being a PA on stage for the shows. And actually at the same time as that going on, I was working at Fox Sports too. So I just happened to see something where I knew somebody at Fox Sports, and they were saying, hey, they're applying, so why don't you come out? I was like, sure, why not? And also just to come back to hustling, I just knew, like, to survive in LA too, you got to have money, and being a PA in one place is not going to get it done. So I knew I had to do more income and get more experience in the industry. So at that point, my first year out of college, I was working both NFL Network and Fox Sports, working about 50 to 60 hours a week. It was a grind.
But you absolutely love it. And we're joined by Matthew Bowman, producer with Tennis Channel. I'm Bryan Fenley, a broadcaster for USTA. And while you were at NFL Network, Matthew, you took home some hardware, right? You picked up an Emmy. You were part of a team that got the Emmy.
Yeah, it's funny. It's actually, when people don't accept their flowers, I'm one of those people. I sometimes forget about it at times. So yeah, so my last year there, NFL. So I was there a total of 4 seasons. So my last season there, and this is with the features department, which I mean, I had to earn my way to even get to the features department, because I started off on a stage show, just being a hands on stage PA. And after 2 years of that and logging and different stuff like that, I took initiative to go meet with people in the features department and interviewed with them, and they brought me onto the team. So my second year with them, once I had more confidence in my skills and more confidence of pitching stories and different stuff like that, and they definitely push you and want you to. One of the stories I pushed was for an inspiring story of Shaheem Griffin in the NFL. For people who don't know his story, he was born with he was technically born with 2 hands, but the one hand got twisted up in his pregnancy, during the pregnancy. So essentially, it came out as a mini hand that was causing a lot of pain, and he ended up having to cut it at the age of 2. And he has a twin brother as well. So their story, long and short, was his brother got to the league, but he still did it. People kind of forgot about him, and he just turned up another notch and went harder and became this great college player, and ended up getting drafted to the same team as his brother in the NFL, which was an amazing story. But yeah, so with that story though, I pitched it once before, didn't get a lot of pickup, and then I pitched it again the following season, and it was more traction this time, knowing that he was a senior, he's gonna come out soon. It was like, all right, let's keep an eye on this guy. And we noticed that ESPN had did a story on him recently, and they had did a story where it was like more of a recreation, dramatization, retelling of the story. And like at times it felt kind of dark, because I mean, I guess kind of dark to tell a story of a 2-year guy ready to cut off his hand. And his mom walks in the kitchen, like, and you're showing that it's dark. So we were like, what's something we can do that's different creatively and kind of inspiring. So me and one of my senior producers at the time, once the story got picked up, he was like, "Hey, let's figure out a cool way to tell it." And we came to the conclusion of telling his story through essay, and then we'll have that essay be repeated along with them at the same time of other limb challenged kids. So
Wow.
we flew in like 5 to 6 limb challenged kids from around the country all into LA, and we all met up at Harvard Westlake High School and did a shoot there, and like shot the stories, had a story. And so like when we get back and we're in the edit, like this is one of those stories where like when you're in the middle of edit, like you're kind of like holding back tears, like, yo, this is powerful. Like there could be something to this. So we gave it through, story came out. And so it's funny, when we actually got nominated and stuff like that, I had already left NFL to go to Tennis Channel. So I kind of was, I mean, I keep in contact with all my coworkers still, and we're still all good and stuff like that. But it was just one of the things where I wasn't active paying attention. So when I found out, I was like, oh crap, I can't believe this is going for an Emmy. And you know what? And long story short, we ended up winning. Our team ended up winning an Emmy, which was amazing. So some of you, I have an Emmy at the age of 24, 25, 26. And for a lot of people who don't even have one, or they get nominated year after year, never get it, I was able to get over that hurdle, which was amazing. Definitely an amazing task.
Many hurdles you are going to overcome in your future, and many more trophies, much more
Hopefully.
hardware that you will accrue as your career continues to flourish. Matthew is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley, of course. Matthew is on with the TC and their production group. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. So one of your mentors, you've been talking about some of them, Matthew, Fred Anthony Smith with the NFL
Yes.
Network. And I want to know what he's meant to your life, because it starts with you believing in yourself and what you've done to make all this possible. But you've got to have people in your corner along the way.
Yes.
And he has to be one of those guys who was right there through thick and thin with you. So his impact on you, how much of what you've done so far is a credit to what he's helped and taught you?
I say Anthony he's been a huge help to my career. Coming in, once I got over to the features department, we met the team. I was able to meet him and a few other people. So our team was probably about 15 people. And you know, in this industry, there's not a lot of diversity at times, and we're breaking through and we're getting there. So at the time I got there, me and Fred and one of the person, only 3 Black people within the whole department. So it's not like a thing where it's kind of like, oh hey, we need to group together. Just want to be like, hey, what's your story? How do you get along? How did you get here? And hey, maybe I can help you out and stuff like that. So he reached out to me and just wanted to talk to me, and he purposely seeked out me and another coworker, Mike, is Casey Zyder, is another great guy. And we both say Anthony's a huge credit to our careers. He took the time, you know, to sit in edits and sit down with you and explain what he's going through, the processes he goes through, the things he's looking for, the shots, the music, like the whole framework of it. Where I've had other, at that time I was a PA, I had other producers where you go sit with them and they kind of just want you to do the grunt work, and they don't want to explain things to you because either they think you're gunning for their job or they just don't want to take the time to give to you. So he took his time, you know, to seek me out and to want to teach me the tools of trade of the industry, to show me things like that, to spend time with me outside the office and invite me around other producers and other people in the industry. He's recommended me or had me interview for other positions with other companies, stuff like that. So he's been a huge credit. And to, I mean, just to be able to sit in the back row and be in the room with that guy during the edit is amazing. I mean, he is a pro. I mean, you go check his record. He has Emmys, he has Tellys, he has awards galore. Has been and has grown in NFL to where now he's running stuff now. So it's kind of exciting to see that.
Just wait, your time is coming. And I saw this picture of you on Instagram, Matthew, and you were sitting on a rock at Tahoe. And there was this huge landscape, beautiful backdrop in front of you. What were you thinking in that moment?
You know, at that moment was Tahoe, this is COVID. So, you know, I needed to get away from the city a bit. And I had a friend of mine who has family cabin up in Tahoe. So we get away. And that was one of our hiking trips we got on. And I mean, 2 reasons. First, got away because, you know, I told them, hey, I'm gonna go off over here, you know, just get some inspiration. Sometimes you gotta, like, you know, put your phone away. You just gotta get away from everything and just kind of get some fresh air, recoup, get your thoughts. So that was like one of those trips or one of those hikes where, you know, I spent some time personally just reflecting on everything that's transpired, you know, in my life, my career, friendships, everything. It's just a good moment for deep thought. And then secondly, it was definitely, you know, when my friend saw the opportunity to take a great picture, you know,
Yeah.
he was like, yo, stay still, don't move anywhere. I didn't even know he was coming to take a picture. But it's like one of those things, you know, I'm a city guy, LA born and raised, West Coast, through and through. But at the same time, I really enjoy, just getting out in nature and just taking that time to, just be in your thoughts and just be able to just enjoy moments and enjoy things. And that was definitely one of those moments you can just sit back and enjoy, where it's like, hey, COVID, most people are stressed out, freaking out, just like that. I have the luxury of, I'm able to travel with friends to a beautiful location. I'm able to sit here. I'm not stressed out about work. I mean, my health, we're all worried about our health, but for the most part, I'm healthy. And it was just, it's just a great moment to just, recollect.
A lot of moments where you could reflect now is you being in an editing room. And I know you've got a lot of that in front of you with the US Open coming up. And when you look at your identity on a piece, when you think about the creative juices that flow through your mind, what would I see in one of your pieces that you've played a part in where I would know, okay, Matthew Bowman was definitely part of this project?
For me, so it's kind of storytelling. So storytelling, I love to find besides the surface level, but stuff that has deeper roots or has a connection to something. So it can be something that somebody's like, hey, I got into tennis because my mom was a fan or something like that, or my mom played it. But it's like, yo, let's dig deeper into that. Like, what's the root of that? So I like to dig into roots of story. Big thing for me too is music. I think music affects edits a lot. It could somber, happy, energetic, it change it. It can make an edit where you have a beautifully laid out piece, but if the music doesn't fit, people aren't going to necessarily like or be attracted to it. And then also for me, and this is what I got from Anthony. He taught me to have a good eye for shots, to be very selective. So there's people who will just, you just put in shots, but like, when you see an edit of mine, those shots, trust and believe, I looked over those shots a good 4 or 5 times. I looked out for the best angles I could find, different stuff like that. So, I would say shot selection and music are big for me in root storytelling.
You said before we started this that during COVID, you've gone back home for a little while to stay with your family and to help out with your family. And all I see throughout your life is, and you talked about this earlier, Matthew, where you were helping with the younger kids in the park and you mentor and you supervise. And all I see is constantly trends of you helping others, giving back to your family, giving back to kids, going above and beyond what you have to do as far as there aren't many who are in a position where you are, where you're constantly focusing on grinding yourself, but still find the time to be able to impact positively others. Where did that come from for you?
It's kind of hard to pinpoint that. I mean, I could say this a simple answer is like my parents, my mom, stuff like that. I mean, seeing the hard work they've done for me, but I think it was instilled in me from a young age where, it was always just to give back. And I mean, I think I've always just thought of the greater good of people and just give and just period. It necessarily didn't have to be something that was taught to me. It just felt right, felt natural. I mean, like you said, like growing up, I volunteered in my church nursery, helping out watching kids during me just because I wanted to. I went back, like I said, helped out at parks and helped out kids and coach stuff because I just wanted to. I had fortunate during college, one of my jobs for summer was summer camp. So I came back and was again helping out kids. I was mentoring people in the tech field, just stuff like that. I started initiatives and programs at the park I was at. It's one of those things that I was just born with, I would say. It was just a fire in me where, it's just to give back. Because I'm thankful for, I've had so many experiences in my life where there's other people in my circumstances, friends of mine who we same circles where they were not fortunate. I mean, we're in totally different situations in life. And I'm fortunate for I've had a good shoulder on my head and been able to make majority of the right choices. And just and for all that, I'm just a big believer in karma. So giving back is just kind of just my motto. And I don't even do it with the thought of, oh, I'm giving back. It's just me just doing it just to do it. It's just one of those things. You just either you're born with it or you're born without it. And I definitely feel like I was born with it, that spirit of giving.
You mentioned your mom. You mentioned how you believe in karma. How has your mom believed in you, in what you do, in your pursuits? And specifically, what does that look like and what has that looked like?
I say my mom is huge. She's my number one support system for sure. Just because, I've been able to rely on her and just, have legit open talks to her about stuff. I mean, me and her have had a lot of talks over the years. And, it's one of those things where she gives really good advice and she has a really good ear to listen and help you. So there's been times like in my career, I've even thought about times where it was different periods where I've thought about switching careers just because, whether it be for financial reasons or I just feel like I'm stuck or different things where I wasn't sure or I had other opportunities. She would be the first person I would go to ask, like, hey, what's your thoughts on it? And I'll get her perspective. Rather I take her opinion or not, that's another story. But she's definitely someone who would come and give me advice. Like I said, she's been like huge support system. I mean, for me, my parents divorced when I was in high school. So when my dad moved away, it was me and my mom here left in LA. My sister was already in college, gone. So like one of those things where it's like that gave us our bond like that. And I was always a mama's boy. And then like during college, there was a lot of situations and when it came to making decisions and she was able to help me and she's been a huge support and just like, I'm forever grateful for that. My career definitely wouldn't be where it is today without her.
I knew when I met you that we had this connection because I also am a mama's boy, Matthew, and it's different circumstances because my dad actually, he passed away when I was a kid. And so my mom was basically the overseer of the family, my sister and I, and everything that, and I bet you would agree in a way, everything we do, we try to like want to impress our moms because they believed in us from the start, and being able to rely on that strength means everything. It's infinite and there's no words to describe. And what I did want to ask you is if you were to pick out a piece that you've done with Tennis Channel that is most moving. You mentioned with the NFL Network and Shaq Griffin and that piece and how that certainly got the emotions going. But from a TC perspective, where were you able to really dig beneath the surface of a player and get raw emotion or tell a story? Because like you said, you herald yourself as a great storyteller, which you are, where you were able to learn something about an athlete on the tennis court that maybe the athlete had never shared with you, or that was a very challenging thing to discuss, but ultimately it was able to come through in a piece.
So I'm trying to go through the history and all the different things and stories to tell. I mean, there's been a few great stories I've been able to share. I would say on my time so far at TC, I'd say I haven't done a piece that's been emotionally provoking so far. I feel like a lot of stories we've been able to share have been more inspirational and more enlightening. Just because there's a lot of people who are naive to tennis and the tennis history and lessons and the important trailblazers and stuff that have been a factors of it. So I mean, like a story I could think of top is like for Connor Shroud, kid from North Carolina, and he's a wheelchair tennis player, and he's one of the top in the country right now, age 18. And he just had a story where it was like, we're there at his family's house interviewing him, and like his parents didn't want to do nothing with the storytelling. Like they're like, no, we're still on the side, like let him do it. Like they didn't want to involve, but we were able to convince the mom to get on camera and stuff like that. Just her being able to share her son's story, and share some of those things where details were necessary. Like he wasn't even privy to all the things that was going through with his health when he was right before he was born and up to the moment Tyler says baby, he just wasn't aware of it. Where we get her crying on camera, you get her moving, you can see how real the feelings and stuff are. I say stuff like that. And I mean, one thing for me, I would say I enjoy, whereas like storytelling is, so there's a show that I produced called My Tennis Life, which is pretty much, it's like a day in the shoes type of digital show where we follow a men's player on tour and a women's player on tour. And for me, I'd say I love using, I mean, some of the edits can be simple, I would say, but to me, it's cool because we're showing fans what everyday players go through, minus some of the glamour. Like they just think of the glamour stuff, but they don't know the nitty gritty of, hey, as soon as you lose in the second round, what you were expecting, you got to call the airport, change your flight plans, head to the airport, fly to your next city. You're driving yourself, necessarily don't have it. Depending on if you're a top 50 or top 100, if you're less, I mean, a lot of it's funding on your own or getting around your own with a smaller team. And for me, it's cool to share their inside nugget stories, and I get to be able to have a selection of what to choose to show or not. So I could be so selective where I was like, hey, I don't want to show these little moments because I think they're not worthy of it. And so I'll just show the general, just happy glossy. But some of these inner moments where it's like the little details, the little things that, we like as players, they overthink it. They don't think it's important. But I tell them like, yo, fans love to see these little nuggets. Like they, like, for instance, this season we have Ajla Tomanovich, and like there was a moment where she it was her hanging out with her boyfriend Matteo Bertini, and they go into their apartment and they're in there hanging out with FAA, eating baking cookies and different stuff like that. And like it was like a cool moment. Like, hey, you come to find out that Oz and her boyfriend are really good friends with FAA, and FAA is dating Oz's cousin Nina's. And you find out these connections, you find these little intricacies of stories and stuff like that that you get to share with fans.
Matthew Bowman, producer extraordinaire with Tennis Channel. I'm Bryan Fenley. Final question for you. And you brought up tennis life and your work on that. Now I want to sort of mirror that, and there are things and aspects of what you do on a regular basis. If you had a documentary or a digital short, a feature that were focused on the things that you do, people say you work for Tennis Channel. That means you get all these great things, which you do. You get great access. You get to meet amazing inspirational athletes. You get to travel. You get to tell their stories. But what people don't know is the editing and the looking at the film. So you pointed out how, let's say, a tennis star gets knocked out early in a tournament and they got to change their flights. Your version of that for you is what? Because you do so many neat things that people see out there in public, but there's also the nitty gritty work, which you discussed as well, what the tennis players have to go through, but you have to go through as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I tell people like it's like it sounds like a glamorous job when you say, well, what do you do? You're a producer. Like, oh, it sounds glamorous, but it's like there's a lot of hours I spend inside four walls with a computer screen in front of me, staring at this computer screen. I'll say that's probably like 70% of my job, and the other 30% is traveling and doing stuff. But 70% of it is in four walls, sitting with an editor, getting notes from multitudes of people. Where at times it can be frustrating when you got so many cooks in the kitchen. And this is the way I like to explain to people. Most people get stressed out because like if like stuff's performance based or different things like that, so that causes them stress. For me, what causes stress is creativity, as in like I can create a piece and I think it's amazing, I think it's cut, but the person I'm sending to or cutting to, they might hate it. And if they hate it, now I got to figure out, all right, what do I do creatively to fit it so now they like it. And so now I got to think differently from what I was thinking already. So now it's pushing me or driving me in a direction. So that, that times can cause you stressful, where it's like, all right, sometimes I wish I had a performance-based job where it's like, all right, if I put 10 eggs in the basket, I did my job for the day. Like,
Yes.
I can do that. And that's my job is still not done. So yeah, a lot of it is, like I said, spending time, four walls, computer screen. A lot of it is relationships. I mean, when you're talking to players, dealing with reaching out for footages, keeping in contact with footage houses and licensing and stuff like that, keeping in contact for like we're booking gears, booking stuff like that, so keeping in contact with our rental houses and stuff like that, keeping relationships straight, and yeah, that's a lot of it right there. And a big thing too is and what you can kind of forget is versus working for, like, let's say if I worked for ESPN working for a tennis channel, you go to ESPN or a magazine or something like that, you have more creative freedom, as in to have fun with a story, or just like, you're not contained in a box. But like
Sure.
when you're at the tennis channel or I say NFL, I mean, you're that governing body and you're specifically representing those players. So you feel like you have more pressure to make these players look good and put them in a good light. But at the same time, you don't want to overprotect them. You want to make sure like, hey, they're people too. But that at times can be a balancing act of like, where it's like, hey, am I overexposing this player where it doesn't make him look good in a good light, or am I protecting this person now? Let me remove some of this stuff, because that's not the best thing. If I put this out there and they want me to, if I put it out there, it's not going to make them look the best right there. So that's another thing too. So there's a lot of things that come with it. And a lot of it too is multitasking. Multitasking is the job. So like I was referencing earlier, like right now I'm handling 5 edits. And 5 edits, that's still kind of light. I mean, during our busy times, which are usually the French Open, Indian Wells, I could be juggling as many as 15 edits at once for one person, as well as planning a shoot in another week and doing other stuff. So like it can get really stressful at times. So being organized with a board, that's very important and stuff like that. So I mean, a lot of my time, like I said, it's in 4 walls, being organized, and and on the phone and on the computer.
You work in 4 walls, but you also have worked 3 different jobs at one point. So all of this is all manageable for you in the long run. If there's anybody that can do this, it is you. You got the hustler gene, you've got the talent, and I can't wait for Emmy number 2, 3, 4, 5.
Nobody at the tennis channel I'm aware of has won an Emmy, within our team and stuff like that. So, kind of being the only person. definitely excited. But I want our whole team to get one. I want us to to create a great piece where we're all behind it. We all go to New York when we do the awards, and we're all on stage as we win. That's the goal for our team. I have for us.
It's coming, and with somebody as talented as you, Matthew, it's only a matter of time. Matthew Bowman, producer extraordinaire with Tennis Channel. I'm Bryan Fenley with USTA and Fox Sports Radio. Thanks so much for doing this, man. And it was really interesting diving into your career and learning about your life, because it is a fascinating life, one in which is obviously very busy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.